Chapter 3 Seeking for Human Warmth. Now we left off from the two sisters, Anna, the oldest, and Mom, Yelena, the youngest. The interesting part to the story about my mother's appearance into the world is that when Anna was about 5 years old, she requested innocently and earnestly from my grandmother to make another sister for her. She consistently bugged Grandma because she was lonesome and she needed a companion. Not a brother, specifically a sister, she urged, as if Grandma had direct control on the matter. Just as my little aunt requested, since God listens to all of our prayers, even little girls, which in a sense wasn't directed straight at him, God produced in my grandmother's womb another girl. She named her just as my aunt wanted, Yelena. Mama always liked to live my aunt's life, going to her events in school and talking to her friends, even doing her homework with her. For instance, when my grandmother was working with my aunt on multiplication tables about when she was 8 years old, grandmother repeatedly explained that 2 times 4 equals 8. Grandma asked Anna to repeat back to her, and as Anna was saying 2 times 4 equals, my mom, 2 years old, jumped in and replied with a squeaky and endearingly childish voice under the table. Kosim, which is perceptibly mother's twisted word 8. In Russian, that is properly said vosim. During mother's growing years, my aunt was a pedestal she looked up to. Another story that my grandmother told me was that when mother was small, around 3 years old, everybody was flattering her for her long eyelashes. And for some reason, my mother grew tired of the compliments and cut them in secret under the table. Mother has the most enchanting, the most youthful face, and to this day, she has a vibrant spirit of a 16-year-old. Like Peter Pan, she never grows. She has dark, brown, bouncy curls that I always liked to play with during my childhood. Throughout her life, she has sought adventure and change, love and adoration from anyone, and she has a flamboyant, risk-taking attitude. Her voice rings through the air like an echo reverberating through the spaciousness of a Roman cathedral. She's very sparky, ignitable, and happy-go-lucky. She doesn't like to dwell on her negative experiences. She will brush it off over the shoulder. I think it is necessary to mule over it to achieve self-growth, overcome it, and gain a sense of peace with it. Otherwise, it accumulates in the person's subconscious. Whether one wants to or not, it develops negative habits and attitude towards life. When people trigger mother into negativity, she explodes into defensive and unsettled raves. She takes matters always close to the heart. She doesn't deal with distress very well as a reasoning human being, but while she inhibits sadness, she's a truckload of fun. Her laughter is extremely contagious. She has a very well-developed satirical humor, laughing over the absurdities of life. What I cannot take away from her is that mother doesn't hold grudges for a long time. Although it is important to forgive, one needs to draw boundaries with the person that one has been hurt by. That is what my mother cannot do. She dives right back into the same type of relationship and gets so deep that she gets a slap in the face again. This attitude is well portrayed through the story of the monkey. One time, my grandmother told me the monkey story, only without mentioning Grandpa. Upon questioning mother, she further explained that grandfather thought that there needed to be some entertainment in the house, and he, in consequence to that idea, bought a male monkey for $200 in the bazaar, which is like a farmer's market here. He called it Becca, which I know sounds like a female name, but it was not me who named it. Grandmother was not well humored by that, but after an earnest plea from her children, she agreed to have it. The problem, however, was that Becca always bit Mom. It adored my aunt. My aunt was able to hold it and play with it, but when Mom tried to hold it, it displayed its animalistic viciousness upon her. Mom didn't care. She still wanted to play with it, and she forgave it every time It deformed her face. At the same time, she was jealous of her sister's covenantal friendship with Becca. The monkey also scratched the wallpaper, stole food from neighbors, and in some store, it learned the sign equivalent of the middle finger, which in the Soviet Union is a clenched fist in which the thumb goes in between the index finger and the middle finger. Don't do that when you are in Russian-speaking countries, lest you want to get into trouble with the aggressive folks in town. So because of the monkey's maliciousness, Grandma was determined to sell it. They tried 3 times to sell it. The first 2 times people returned it, but the third time's the charm. They sold it for $800. To this date, when Mom speaks of it, with all the admiration of it being wild, she says, "It was a good monkey." Grandmother, with all of her shortcomings, even though she raised her children with an unnecessary form of discipline, had innately good intentions. She believes in the child's intellectual development as well as developing their talent and becoming well-rounded. I don't know what my grandma did for my aunt, and I don't dare to ask, but I know that Mom took violin classes. In Mom's school, they offered violin classes, and during the time of the Soviet Union, it was for free. When it was announced, Mom was eager to try it, and she was graceful with that. Also, when Mom was 11, she had to go to the hospital due to a neurological disease called Charcot-Marie tooth disease, which is a degeneration of muscles that diminishes your endurance to walk. It's a very rare disease. I was told 2% of the entire Earth's population has it, and there is a 50% chance it is inherited. Mom inherited from her father, Grandpa, and my aunt was lucky not to have it. Grandma always blames Grandpa for those genetics. There are different severities to this disease, and one of its manifestations is that a person's foot stops growing at about 9 years old or so. It remains about the kid's size, 3.5 inches long, when the person becomes a grown adult. And it has a high arch, which makes it a disproportionate to the body. The body's weight is not well supported by the feet. People with such conditions need to wear orthopedic shoes. Mom actually was buying her shoes in kids' sizes during her adult years. Furthermore, a person inflicted with this disease doesn't feel pain in their limbs when the foot is externally scratched up or extremely sweaty. The pain is mainly concentrated on the dysfunction of the muscles in the foot while walking and at rest as the entire leg gets spasmic. But to external stimuli, the feet areas are numb. On top of that, a person with the disease has no knee reflexes. A doctor can hit the reflex spot till doomsday and it will not budge. Mom had severe complications due to it, and at 11 years old, she was sent to a hospital in Kyiv called Ahmadiyets. She stayed there for 21 days until she was diagnosed with it. Mom was experiencing severe pains in the muscles of the legs as if someone was cutting them with a knife. The doctor said that the condition was becoming progressively severe and they had to go to a more specialized hospital in Moscow called Morozovsky. My grandpa came and covered ailing Mom with a blanket, put her on a wheelchair, and they headed to Moscow. Mom spent 4 months there. Through the pain and struggle, Mom was comforted by her friend, who was also there for heart complications. The girl's name was Sveta, and she was 12 years old. Sveta was constantly coming to Mom's room and reading books to her like Sherlock Holmes. Since Mother's parents were far away in Kyiv and couldn't give her money as often as she wished, Sveta also shared her food, which she bought from outside the premises of the hospital. One day, Sveta came to Mother's room where she was with 20 other girls, and Sveta's lips were blue. Mom asked in horror why she chose such a lipstick. Sveta remained silent. After that visit, Sveta didn't show up at Mom's room for a long time. Mom wondered what had happened until Sveta's mother came to Mom, bringing all the books she and Sveta read together, and said in a hoarse and desperate voice, Sveta died from a heart attack after strenuous operations. Her last wish was to give you these books. Mom cried for the death of her dear friend and wanted home. On top of that, she was very shy in asking the nurses to buy her some food when she had the money to do so. She didn't like the environment where she was. All the 20 other girls teased her, and she was overwhelmed with loneliness. With those few that she did get along with, Mom asked for directions for how to get to Kiev from Moscow to return home. The girls said that she needed to get to a train station, though they did not specify which one. Mom had 10 rubles on her that Grandma had given her for spending reasons. 10 rubles was a lot of money back then. On a day when they were strolling in the backyard of the hospital while Mom was on a wheelchair, her eye spotted a gate. She sneakily wheeled herself through, and she found herself in the street outside of the hospital's property. As she was exposed into the street, she was overwhelmed by the activity of the surroundings. Cars, buildings, excessive noise, and she second-guessed her decision to escape from the hospital. That made her consider rewinding the circumstances back to returning to its property. After a moment of fear, Mom filled herself with courage and raised a hand to summon a taxi. A taxi stopped. The taxi driver asked Mother where she was going, and Mom replied that she needed to get to a train station to get to Kiev. So he replied reassuringly, "To Kievsky Vokzal train station?" Mom, not knowing whether it was the one or not, due to the name of Kiev, she hoped it would be right in Kiev, said yes to whatever it was. He asked with concern in return, "Where are your parents?" "My parents will meet me there," she answered, thinking that she could call them and they would pick her up. The taxi driver asked in return again, "Do you have money?" "I have a 10, she replied, and Mom raised her hand confidently to show the bill. That was enough to satisfy the taxi driver. He carefully helped Mom to get in with her wheelchair, and they set out to Kievsky Vokzal. However, to my mother's dismay, she found that Kievsky Vokzal is still located in Moscow. She asked the taxi driver what to do, and he said that she needed...
I want to ask you a small favor.
She asked the taxi driver what to do, and he said that she needed to get tickets and take a train to go to Kiev. Mom paid him a ruble and 50 kopek cents for the ride, and he gently got her out of the car with her wheelchair. After that, Mom wheeled herself towards the checkout to buy tickets. The tickets cost 5 rubles, so she had enough. When it was her turn to check out, the worker there said that she needed either a passport or a birth certificate to go through. On top of that, she needed an adult escort to get in. Mom got disappointed, so she decided to wheel herself around the train station and was fascinated by the passers-by of all colors, of all kinds. Even though she was by herself, she was elated by the good food she bought in the store that smelled so deliciously to her nostrils. While hanging out there, a gypsy girl approached her. Mom's hair was slicked back in a ponytail, and her bouncy curls were gathered in a chunk. She looked like a gypsy girl herself. The gypsy's hair was also full of black and defined curls, and she had a long hair. She was beautiful, Mom said as she described her to me. The gypsy girl asked Mom, "Who are you? Where are you from?" Mom explained her situation with great calmness. In return, the gypsy girl asked, "Do you want me to tell your fortune?" "Yes," Mom replied with interest. The gypsy girl said that Mom would marry an Eastern man. Mom glowed at the idea. Mom was infatuated with her Moscow doctor, Gaston Garpatovich Radalan, who was around 45 years old, and on top of being a neurological doctor, he was a respected professor. He was very handsome, with dark eyes and black hair. He was Mother's childhood love. He was strict in an endearing manner as he forced Mom to keep working on those muscles to get her walking again. She had to work against the wall, pulling a rubber band tied to her feet to exercise those sickly muscles. He talked to Mother as an adult, explaining to her tenderly all the problems with her biology of Shark Marie, comforting her not to worry. Working on her muscles for medical purposes, he touched her legs and massaged them professionally. At the beginning, Mom was shy, and when she innocently asked him why he was touching her, he explained that he was a doctor and it was appropriate. Gaston Garbatovich was an Eastern Azerbaijani, and Mom dreamed that he would divorce his wife and marry her, even though he had kids. Therefore, when Mom was told that she would marry an Eastern man, she was very happy since he was an Eastern man himself. While Mom was away at the hospital, when the responsible nurse at the time found out that Mom was absent while they strolled in the backyard, she filed the child's missing report. The police later found Mom and brought her to the hospital. Upon Mom's arrival back to the hospital, Dr. Gaston Garbatovich asked her who had hurt her and the reasons of her running away. Mom said that she was tired of being with the idiotic girls. He asked her in return, "What do you want?" Mom replied that she wanted to work out at the hospital gym called Atseka longer than she was allowed to. The doctor answered, "Tell the nurses that they never close that cabinet upon my orders." Mom felt comforted because earlier she was only allowed to go there away from the chaos in the morning for an hour, but now she was allowed to be there indefinitely. Due to the camaraderie that Mom had developed with Dr. Gaston Garbatovich, which was, to be reminded, a professor, Mom earned the title of Professor's Girl, belonging to him. In a month, Mom was discharged and her parents picked her up home. Once a year for 4 years, since she was diagnosed around late 11 years old, she went to Dr. Gaston Garbatovich for consultation. Eventually, Mom started walking better and got out of the wheelchair. After the 4 years, at early 16, Mom confessed to the doctor that she got into her first relationship with a man and was no longer a girl, meaning a virgin. The doctor replied, "I noticed that based on your walk." Mom was having difficulties with her first involved romantic love, and she daringly asked, "Can we have a romantic relationship? I really have grown comfortable with you, and I really love you." It was the most heartfelt statement she was ever made towards a man. The doctor replied, "You don't need this for your health." That was the end of Mother's fantasies about him. Nevertheless, one detail to note about Mother's hospitalization. While staying there for passing the time, doctors gave her clay to mold, since that was all that they had to distract her with. Thus, Mother detected her talent. As a result, Mother took a class in ceramics after she got out. To this day, she does amazing figures of all kinds, and she paints the figures in glamorous ways. Mom's other habit is to build puzzles. She can build a puzzle of 2,000 pieces with such an enduring patience, and I never know how she can do this. Those were her ways of coping with stress. Although she had patience in these occupations, she had little patience in different ones, more essential areas of life, like with me. Another disease that is worth mentioning is that Mother has polycystic ovary syndrome, which is a hormonal imbalance with a heightened amount of testosterone in the bloodstream that causes unwanted hair on the face, chest, belly, and around the nipples. I have inherited this too. It also causes severe face acne during puberty, along with an irregular menstrual cycle ranging from light to heavy. The more important detail is that the disease creates difficulty in becoming pregnant, and it is genetic. Unfortunately, due to Mom's frequent hospitalizations during her childhood, she missed school and she had to do her homework in the hospital. Grandma, in turn, due to her understanding of the human body through her devout occupation of gymnastics and probably by avidly following the doctor's instructions, learned how to work my mother's feet muscles and strengthen them. With Charcot-Marie tooth disease, the muscles of the feet are very weak, and it is easy to twist an ankle if a person doesn't work on strengthening them through ritual exercises. Grandma, through persistent work with Mom and relentless visits to the hospitals, on top of the doctor's help, saved Mother from a permanent stay in a wheelchair. Nevertheless, while being in the hospital, Mom told me that the doctors thought her very bright and expressed that they believed she had an enormous potential. Mom, although with poor grammar, Russian grammar is extremely difficult, but with dexterity of words and eloquence, loved to write essays. She was drawn to the art of expression. Likewise, she loved math and its thought processing ways. After all, math is built upon the same principles as building and connecting puzzles in its tactics of thought. Only one is a visual challenge and the other is numerical. Despite the enormous potential that Mom was said to have, Mom has not taken advantage of it. She was more distracted by boys.